So welcome to today's Fit with friend of Precision Golf Carly Booth, three-time LET Tour winner. So just moved down south from Manchester, so in the area now, and really it's a case of running through what the clubs are now, coming back from injuries, and kind of saying, right, take stock of where we are now and how we can move things forward from there. So.
Yeah, obviously with my injuries, I have to adjust my clubs a little bit. I'm not hitting it as far after my shoulder operation and my ACL. So this is obviously the place to be at Precision Golf. So hopefully we're going to make some progress here today.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And so, from the injury side of things, is there anything that you're consciously having to change about some of your physical prep, swing itself from a technique standpoint, or is it more a case of just rebuilding the body back up to be able to swing how you want to?
Well, I think for me, I'm still working on making my body stronger, but the same power I used to have has changed. So that will obviously indicate the difference of shaft or how the head is, and every situation on every club. So, I mean, this is why I'm here today. So
you can let me worry about that bit.
Yeah, that's your job.
Relative to, I guess, where you were at 100%, where would you say from a not necessarily strength point of view, but from a playing point of view, where would you say you are within that kind of journey back to where you want to be? So 70, 80%, or maybe not quite as much?
I would say I'm hitting about 80% of what I used to, and just still building a bit of strength with obviously with my knee. It's caused a lot of hard work with my back, so it all kind of combines. So still working hard on that, and
getting there.
Getting there. It's a long process sometimes.
And so, as you were saying earlier, kind of when we were just getting into the bay, it's tough, especially the last couple of years, just having the facility, being able to do it when gyms were shut, and
definitely COVID was really hard for all of us, and that was during my injury time. So I didn't really have the facilities when I needed it the most.
Onward and upward. Onward and upward.
Always.
So you're going to do, you've got a set you've been playing with, but actually what we're going to focus on, because from a playing point of view, we don't want to mess around with those, but what we want to do is build up a second set that we can kind of show, right, this is what's doable now. So we don't interfere with your gamer set, but then potentially, depending on what we can do with these, if we can move those beyond them, then great, and then we can kind of take things from there. So got a set of the TaylorMade, the P760s, and a MCs in the short iron and the things. AMT Torsi weights, so these are a progressing weight set. So fairly strong weight, but then that goes back to where you were physically when you were using these before. So we'll have a few looseners, warm up, and then we'll just take it all from there.
Perfect.
So, and generally playing-wise, are you say you're more of would you say more of an instinctive, more of a feel player, kind of see a shot, play a shot?
I've always been a field player.
Yeah.
Didn't really grow up much with coaches. Kind of did most of it myself, and some guidance from my brother. Yeah. And I was also part of the Nick Faldo series teams, so that was my only guidance really when I was really young. So, obviously, I kind of have to figure it out myself. If I have to think too much, it just doesn't make sense for me. So,
is that where you're comfortable in terms of just saying, find almost sort of on the day, see where you are, work out what you've got to do, take that to the course, rather than, right, I must be doing this, that, and the other with the swing?
Yeah, like one or two simple thoughts is perfect for me. If any more, I really struggle myself.
And most people can learn from that as well. You do not want
Keep
five swing
simple.
thoughts.
Very simple is good.
And so currently at the moment, generally you've been right to left player naturally? Or
I mean, it's changed throughout the years, but I'm hitting a slight draw at the moment, but I do like a fade, if I'm honest.
So that would be where you default to want to see the ball just dropping a little bit, right?
Yeah, and then obviously loft and lies come into place with obviously the difference from my my swing speed and how the club sits, obviously. So that's why we're looking at these today. So.
And generally, so I've always been more comfortable going down a club and hitting it harder and kind of committing to a shot. Is that, if you were between clubs, would you without any kind of situation that you've got to play a shot for, just a yardage side of things, would you be more comfortable playing the fuller shot, or you generally default to playing a little bit within yourself as a kind of a natural default?
You know, I grew up a lot on links courses, so the more punchy shot I felt I had more control over, and I played better. I feel like when I try and hit it harder, I don't quite get the connection. So, hitting it a little bit shorter, that shorter feeling for me has always been good.
And as a result, flight was just kind of flighting it down a little bit as a preferred kind of control flight?
Well, that's where I just, from my own personal knowledge, not really, again, being quite a field player, just knowing where to kind of set up back foot or front foot, depending on height and particular shots.
Yeah. So rather than kind of naturally, so I've always liked to see it a little for control. I like the lower flight. You just, whatever the situation is, just whatever you see, react and play that shot rather than kind of stock swing, so to speak.
And sometimes it's quite hard to like explain it as well to play, like to players. It's more feel. So it's just how I would naturally change a position of a shot.
Got it. So we'll get a few shots, get a little look at the data, and then take a kind of a stock check on where these ones are, and then that gives us a base point to take things forward from there. So. And as a bit of a background for whilst you hit a couple for those watching, this set's a little longer and a little heavier than the current gamer set. So I've got the specs of the gamer set, so we can kind of make comparisons to that when we run through the data. But these ones are shaft weight 10, 15 grams heavier.
I've also not had a lesson in a year and a half, so I just go on what I've been told and the feeling that I need to kind of work with, which is obviously getting my hip and shoulder to the target. So that's the only thing I just think about. That was quite nice.
We'll literally get we'll get four or five or six, just as a kind of, just to get an average, a base bit of data. Would you generally tend to, over time, you generally tend to be a little bit more of a shallower divot taker?
Well, more of recent, I think I've been trying to hit more up on it because I've not got the same strength as I used to. So that's making me hit out the bottom a little bit more. Yeah. So these clubs I feel like are a little bit too long, and I just need to make sure I'm like coming more down on it. Where I'm trying to, obviously, with my speed, I'm trying to lift it up.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Okay.
I'll take these.
Yeah. So obviously, someone of your standing, your path and things are generally not going to be an issue. So, kind of looking, data-wise, the bit that's interesting to me is there's a little bit of like that. The last two, the variation on spin. So, depending on what view James has got up there, the shot before is very, very neutral path, slightly open base, so that shot just dropping right like you like to see it. And then spins in a pretty neutral level for 6-iron that you're hitting now. And then the last one is longer, but it's dropped 1,000 revs of spin. And so we just can't have that for you. You've got to know what that ball's doing and where it's going to land. And I think some of that is, so a lot of, when we're looking at shafts in particular, over the years, there's a lot of talk about flex, there's a lot of talk about kick point, but functionally, weight, by a mile, the key thing. And where these are quite heavy, so for a steel shaft, the AMT's progressed, but the kind of the middle weight, the 6-iron, 7-iron weights are around the 115, 118 gram mark, maybe pushing 120. That's behind you a little bit.
It's funny because I remember having 6.0 shafts at 13 years old. And, I probably didn't have myself having such strong shafts.
High things back then.
But I'm looking at the carry there. That's a really good 6-iron for me, 165. And Yeah, that's good to see that actually.
I mean, it's got there partly through a bit of a hot spin, but I think we can increase the. So the problem is that variation in spin. So that one's coming in slight draw, flat, hot, with a spin more like a 5-iron, 4.5, 5-iron, whereas the previous shot, and find the cursor there, that's a much more neutral spin rate. So I'd much rather see that spin on there. But what's happening a bit is with where the weight is there, as you're firing through, once that club gets a little bit dropped in behind you.
And also, I see the difference when I get tired as well. So having the heavier shaft is when it's obviously not easier to control. So
first swing there, that's what shows me that the shafts are just getting stuck behind you.
Yeah.
Because you're an elite player, very quickly you can adjust to it. But the problem is that that's your one on the course when you haven't got the back. You've got to find that square bit. So if we can get some, and with your gamer set there at 105 grams, so they're 10% lighter. And so what that means is you can just rotate and collect the ball, and your rotation can square the face rather than your hands having to do it. And that's where that variation face to path and the shot and the spin is going to hurt you on course a little bit.
Definitely.
But that's really down to weight. You know, as you say, they're a little longer as well.
I realized how much, from my injuries, how different my clubs that I'd have, just not fitted for me anymore, and it's so important to get them refitted. So for me now, it's yes, maybe a lighter shaft and different settings on my club face.
Yeah, I mean, so the club head is something I want to
hit it as far as possible as well.
It's a balance between. It's where that spin rate's a key one. So obviously distance, we can max out ball speed proportionally great, but what we don't want to do is get distance by low spin, especially not with the irons, because then you're just not going to know what they're going to do when they pitch. So the more we can keep the spin up around the 5,000 mark, but generate a little bit more efficiency from a timing point of view, and potentially a bit more speed through go lighter, that'll be first port of call. So it's that consistency bit in particular that where these are is just going to hurt you somewhat. So I'm going to get a similar head to that, or as close a head as I can, because that one's not done anymore, but I'll get a similar head from a construction point of view, and we'll work our way through the shafts and look at different dead weights, balance points, just to kind of bind things together, but also with a view that you're only going to get stronger and get, the timing's got to improve. So we want to challenge a little bit, but definitely bring the weight down a little bit from there. As we go, just fire any questions at me as we go. So I'll just select a relevant head and a couple of shafts. Let's go. You got 2, 2, 3. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks. Right.
That's pretty straight now. But when I get tired, I'm like,
Yeah, and I think what happens is with those ones, you'll manage it. So the heavier the club gets, what happens is as you fire from the top, if it gets into there, then you'll start to manage path, like that one, path's gone more into out faces closing more. So the danger there is you're just losing some of the face control. And so it's speed, but it's got that little bit of a sling in there potentially.
For me now, I get to about the 14th hole and I can see my body's getting tired. That's where I'm at right now with my strength and ability. But then I play great for the first 14, and then it just kind of tires me out. So obviously that's with my energy levels as well as my fitness at the moment. So you need I feel like I need something where I'm not actually really having to try too much at the moment. And I think I have to have such full power.
Yeah, those are full effort. And also with what you mentioned earlier about wanting to get a little more covered on top of it, the heavier it is, the more it's going to drop you underneath. So it's going to create that little bit of a flip rather than being able to you to turn and control and
that's
compress.
My old habit was to be a bit more too open, and I could flip it.
And that kind of alluding to what you were saying earlier about playing the old 6.0 Project X's, 120, 223 grams is, I'm
heavy.
a little more, I'm a vintage, a little older than you as
was
well.
a lot stronger
And
when
we
I was
used to play. We had to start with the dynamic golds and things. And the
Yeah.
problem for youngsters growing up is that then gets really stuck behind it, promotes that because the club, it's like chaining it to the wall. It gets stuck, and then you're creating that flippy action.
And
it's so key not to have that.
I also realized, like, from 12 years old, I was like hitting blades, and I'm thinking I'm not really helping myself, in a sense, to make things a bit easier.
Yeah, although it trains good strike.
But blades are like in this kind of.
Oh, yeah, definitely harder work. But I mean, actually, for juniors, I like not having overly forgiving clubs because
I think it makes you work harder.
trains
as well,
technique
and
a little
think
bit.
about it
Yeah.
more.
So I'm going to match up the loft and lie on this. Just make sure we're comparing exactly the same
I'm actually
thing.
really happy with that shot.
So you're going to move. What we want to do is we work down the shaft. We want to find where we get to a point where we're too light, and then we'll bring it back up. So we need to find we know where the top end of the
Also,
performance
I
is.
think these are just slightly higher than average.
So they're a men's standard, so 37.5 inch on the 6 iron.
Okay.
Your current gamer set is 37 inch, so there's a ½ inch less than that.
I feel a little bit shorter might be better for me because it doesn't make me feel like, sometimes I feel I have to be like quite tall.
Yep. Almost feel
Just
you've
to
got
get
to stand up out of it a
yeah.
little bit. Okay. So with these, if you literally just grip it to the base of the white, that's then the equivalent of the same as your gamer set. So gamer set's got a KBS Tour 185. Versus the AMT Tour whites, they're, I say 10%, a good 10% lighter. But also the balance point's a little different as well. So
Never hit Mizuno.
So like your 760s have got that little bit of face tech without being an absolute cannon of a club. So using this one, because it's the similar kind of characteristics, I wanted to not make the club do too much. So. Okay. So now the difficult thing for you is going to be with these, just the freer you can make the swing, the better, because you'll adapt a little bit, but it kind of allows me to see how efficiently the club's swinging for you.
I think that's a little bit right.
Okay, so
Oh, actually.
it's not,
too bad.
path went a little more into out, but you got the face squared up a little bit more. I'll see one more there.
Obviously, I haven't been playing much, so this is actually great for me to just get a bit more insight.
Mm. Okay, so it's still, what I can see, that's a good stronger, that's that stronger contact. So that's, what's great there is, from the numbers point of view, we've got that carry that you got with your current one,
Yeah.
but we got it with 4,000, with higher spin rate.
Yeah.
So still nice and squared up. We've got a little bit more efficiency. Ball speeds up a little bit. So it's a more kind of more neutral flight for that distance.
And like, I'm not very good with all this stuff, but attack angles. And
Yeah, I'd like to get
path.
that down a little bit more. We can still work. We can still help with that. But
Yeah, my old coach said like he was like -6.
yeah,
But
I mean,
I can't do that.
like
Never
-2
been that
is
way.
fine. But what's nice with that one is that the previous shot with your current one got there through being a bit of a sling draw and a 3-9 spin. That one's got that little kind of couple of foot drop right at the end with a much more neutral spin profile. So
I think neutral's good to start with.
that a little
and then,
further.
You know, you work from there.
yeah, so with this one, it's, as a first step, we've got 10 grams out the shaft, so we're 105, 106. But it's got a little bit of balance in the bottom end. Now, for me, that still looks like that bottom end's getting a little bit behind you, so I'm just going to neutralise the balance on that. The good news is that's moving closer to your game.
Yeah,
set.
and 175 is my usual kind of distance from my 6 before my shoulder operation. So it's, I obviously want to get my carry and my total up again, because it definitely differed when
Yeah, I mean, to get
came back
the
playing.
10 yards or so would probably be you would get, I mean, ball speed you're looking at 4 or 5 miles an hour. So, but that's 3 on club speed. So it won't take a lot to, you get back to 80, 85, 86 on the club speed, and then you're pushing the 175 carry. So
I was always one just said, if my coach is happy with my stuff, it's fine.
yeah.
I'm not like one of those that goes into the details. So if it goes straight as well, you can't see anything straighter than that. So.
No, that has finished all of.
So that's all I look at.
No, is it 9 foot? Yeah, it's 9 foot. I'm going to forgive you 9 foot. 3 foot of curve. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. There's a lot to be said for not over worrying. I mean, the numbers are important, but actually, I think you can dig yourself a hole by over focusing.
I think a lot of people overthink sometimes. So just like keeping it quite neutral. Have your 2 little thoughts for my swing. Well, that's what I have. Two thoughts only.
Yeah.
Head over the ball, and my right shoulder over it to the target.
So similar weight, just change where the weight is on this a little bit. Okay. Okay, that's a nice change. So what's nice with that is this shaft, the balance is a little less than the previous shaft, so the balance is more in the tip.
So is this lighter then?
It's maybe 1 gram. This is essentially the same weight and balance profile as your current gamer set.
Right.
And what's good with that is it straight away, you haven't had to work to square the face up. So, whereas with the original AMTs and that last shaft,
it's more natural setup.
the bottom end just gets a little more behind, so you've then got to work the face a bit squarer. So immediately we can then use the head weight to control the timing when it comes through, rather than have to firefight and hope that we can stop it getting stuck.
Yeah, you want to make it as easy as possible, don't you?
So we'll get one more with that, just to get a extra reference marker, and then I'll take it down a little bit more, but that's definitely a good change. Okay, so I can work on that. So just over rotate a little bit.
I felt like I came up on that a little bit.
Yeah, angle attack's got that a little bit up on that, but okay. I'll take that a bit further. I'm going to drop down a little bit more from that. So just want to make sure we know where absolute kind of bottom out weight is, and then we can bring it back up.
At least it's kind of starting in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, that watching you swing it looks so much easier for you just to turn and collect the ball.
Yeah.
So if we can take out any complications through hands having to manage the face, you can just leave the face online. So it then becomes just big muscle groups doing the swing rather than the hands.
It also feels a bit less effort, you know, because with these shafts I've had, like I feel like I really have to have a lot of energy.
Yeah, club's an appropriate word for those. Yeah.
Well, when it gets to about the 15th hole, I'm like, tired, no. And you see the difference.
Take that down. I'm going to take it down a couple of grams more. Let's see. That.
You can hear it in my voice, I'm tired. Can you edit some parts? No. Sugar puff. Whoops. Oh God. I didn't know it was live.
Oh, let's pick the wrong length.
I feel like doing a dance or something to be like, ah.
So the key thing from the fit time is just making sure that you can move naturally and the club complements it, rather than having to adjust yourself to the club. And as you say with your current ones, that's the problem, is you when you're all guns blazing and firing at it, even then it's still going to have the left-right dispersion, still going to be compromised because it's coming from behind you and having to play fetch a little bit. So there's going to be that little bit of long left, short right dispersion.
Like I think a lot of like, especially amateurs, like they really don't understand how crucial it is to get a proper fitting. I'm like when they're not improving their golf, etc. But I'm like, well, is your clubs correctly fitted for you? So
Yeah, and it can be like banging your head against a bit. Where you can be trying to do some really good swing work,
yeah.
and the clubs actually just not let you do it. You
Well,
know.
I remember having a set where, like, the loft and lies just kind of after time, like they do move.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, I don't know why it's kind of getting this little kind of hook. I don't feel
Yeah.
like I was doing anything different, but completely changed because they do move.
Yeah,
after
especially
time.
this time of year, playing off mats. As everyone goes to go to the range, you're hitting off these fairly firm mats, and it does just bounce the loft and lies out.
And then that's why the trucks are there every week for
Yeah.
the guys, you know, to check the clubs. So, I mean, it's very important when it's
I remember one
obviously your
story
career.
about VJ Singh. Said he went to one tournament. He didn't want to have to hit a little 5-iron, so he got his 6-iron strengthened half a club because he just wanted to hit full 6-iron just for that
Yeah.
one hole.
Oh, he loves to hit golf balls. I've heard that he just can stand there for like 6 hours and just hits
I mean,
away.
considering now his age, we think your seniors tour and things, how strong and how fit he still is.
Yeah,
Incredible amount he
it
puts
is
in.
incredible. Just so passionate though. I mean, it's crazy how everyone's very different. Either you work so hard and work hours and hours and hours to get the like perfect swing, or you're just naturally quite talented, but you work really hard at the natural talent you have. So a lot of it is also the coach you have.
Yeah, you've got to be speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you have to work with your natural swing and build on that than try and change something
I mean,
that
so-
doesn't quite suit.
Yeah, I mean, the
You
thing
know,
is, it's a bit like
everyone's-
club fitting. If from functionally your musculature is built a certain way, you can't actually change that. You know, you're
Yeah.
either a fast twitch power-based player or more of a control-based player because
Yeah.
of your physiology. So,
Yeah, 100%.
okay. Okay, I've just got. Okay, now we found bottom out. I can go. That's a little. I went a little light enough to know whether it was going to be. And what happened is it just you overpowered the club, got into the ground before the ball. Just
It
not
goes
enough to hit
straight,
against.
but obviously I want to get a little bit more distance.
And that's the thing is people often say, oh, if I want more distance, should I just go lighter? But the problem is if you go too light, there's not enough weight to use to develop the speed and
Exactly.
keep the strikes. So
Like when I'm
That was what
feeling
that one was
really
there.
fully energized, like I can hit the ball a lot further. So you don't want to go too light when you have that energy. Especially playing tournaments, you always seem to have a bit of a buzz
yeah.
where I feel like I'm hitting it so much further than the practice round.
You say a little bit in those tournament situations, a little more adrenaline
Yeah, my caddy
going,
gets a bit
keyed
confused sometimes.
up. So do you have to make an adjustment for your yardages on a tournament round versus a practice round, or is that a case of you kind of see how you start, a bit like conditions where you see how things start off and adjust from there?
Well, conditions always come into play. Practice rounds, it depends if I've just traveled a long way. Usually it's like your first practice round, I'm like, I've just traveled all the way to South Africa and I'm like a bit jet lagged and tired.
Yeah.
And then I tee up on the first round and I'm like buzzing. So I'm like, geez, that's not my yardage from yesterday. So like I've always been aware of that too. But that's why you have your caddy or you do things with TrackMan to know your yardages. So I know when I'm tired, I'm going to be hitting it at about 5 to 8 yards shorter.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something I've learned obviously over years.
So just taking the weight back up a little bit on this one again. So. Yeah, and so straight away contact's better, straighter.
And also, obviously after my shoulder up, I feel like I'm hitting up because I'm trying to hit it further.
Yeah.
Where I should just accept the fact that I'm not quite gonna hit it as far.
Well, I mean, and
But I mean,
that'll
like,
continue
you
to
can't
develop.
complain with that.
Yeah, I mean, so that when you got the angle of attack that little bit downward, so going back up in weight, you can see it stayed with you better, contact's better.
Yeah, like that's kind of my thing, is just to really power through. And obviously lack of practice maybe as well.
Well, I say, apart from it, when we've got into the right kind of weight category, what we're starting in that sort of 102 to 105 gram range, we're starting to see you be able to have that path slightly left, but then the face holding, so having that little bit of a drop to the right. I'm going to get a couple more with this, just to see with a couple more swings how this one, then I'll compare it to the other shaft, which is in line with what you're playing now. Because it's a little subtle difference in where the weight sits within the shaft.
Yeah.
So this one's naturally got a little bit more balance of lower mid, a little more towards the bottom half.
Yeah.
Whereas the one that's effectively the kind of current version of what you're playing now is a little higher up. And it's whether using balance in the lower half of the shaft or head weight is better.
And this is the crazy thing, like people don't notice how often like we have to change our clubs or the weights and how much it affects your shots.
And so particularly for you right now, coming back from the injuries and strength, this is something that that's going to have to kind of keep monitoring and saying, right, we might need to increase head weight very slightly, or then, a few months down the line, I might have to up the shaft weight a little bit just for the clubs to keep in check with where you are.
Because the clubs I have is not fitted for my current status. Like I've not got the same strength, so it's massively going to affect my, my length, and obviously when I get a bit tired, it's going to be not as easy to
balance
hit.
is going to go off, time is going to go off a little bit. Yeah.
And then when I get stronger, like then that's when you change again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like every week, I mean, the guys have the trucks there and they're doing their lofts and lies, and they're like, oh, we're playing links this week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change from the 5-wood to a 2-iron.
Yeah, or a little bit of a
lower.
wedge grind change. Yeah.
So much goes like into the whole process of making everything perfect for you.
Okay. Just a little dropped in. Okay. So I can see one more of that, and I'll switch it back to the other, because that one's just dropped under a little bit more again. So it's kind of taking into account how that shaft sets up.
Okay.
That is something for me watching you swing to be aware of. Yeah, it's interesting.
That wasn't as
first
good.
one was great, but where you've got
That wasn't a good shot.
you've got quite a one better phrase, sort of a sharp. That change of direction is quite sharp. It's not a kind of a low, kind of long, slow build up.
Sometimes I
You
have a
kind
bad
of snap change direction.
bad hesitation to go a bit down, so
Yeah.
I kind of hit it a little bit fat.
So what I'm going to take that one out. And so
Okay.
the reason I sort of mentioned that is where with this the balance is more in that lower half.
Right.
If you've got a quicker change of direction and that bottom end's heavy, it's going to want to drop that way. And whilst the first one was perfect in terms of shot shape and everything, the second two I could just see that bottom end just getting.
But I knew exactly
under.
when I hit that. I just lowered my weight, so I hit it a bit heavy.
But I think that's where that shaft setup, I think we can use that to help make that less likely. So I'm going to go back to that 105 gram and just give you a little bit more head weight than we had originally.
I'm happy with my start, though. Everything's kind of been more so like online.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting with the club setup as we get this zoned in. It's going to mean you're going to have to do less to kind of fight what's going from a club point of view.
You want to make it as easy as possible.
So the better, I think, for this little bit less tip heavy setup in the shaft, stops it, effectively the club trying to drop underneath on you. That should make it easier to not get the path working right and get that face going left. So.
Well, that's my two old habits is a slight drop, overswing, slight drop, and lower my head. So.
Yeah. Okay, so there we go. Let's just back to that one. Just log this one back in. Okay.
was a little bit thin.
Okay.
Just redo that one.
Face to path, dead square on that one though. So a little into out, but square on the face.
Better.
Take a fraction of that head weight off, just a little tweak on that. That's definitely more neutrally, and there's definitely not. You can see the club not laying down behind you anywhere near as much. I've just taken a fraction of that head weight off there.
Yeah. I can hit a couple more.
So just a little kind of tune that balance in. Nice. Nice, that was very nice.
That was better.
Yeah, so just
Yeah,
took it like
nice.
a half a swing weight point off. And
It's so neutral.
you can hear in the contact stroke, and dead neutral on the face to path. And then we're back into that 165, 66 carry, sort of upper 4,000 spin. I don't want that to be any lower. Better efficiency. But at the moment that bottom end gets too heavy on you, it just drops under.
Yeah.
So really key to keep it a more even weighting through. So the good side is that the set that you're playing with is very, very close to where we are here. They're a little lighter in the head, a little bit, but actually a very similar
Also, I'm trying to like
setup.
work on having a short swing too, so like more power through, shorter power.
So again, the heavier it gets, and especially down the bottom end, as you try to finish, it's going to want to take you around more as well. So evening that weight profile through is definitely going to help with that. I'm going to get a fractional, just as a cross around the fractional
my brother always
change
said,
on that.
when I'm tired, you swing so much better.
Okay.
But it shows how much it makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you can see for you in particular that the moment it tips heavy, it brings in the two-way miss, because your path starts to go off as it drops under, and then you're battling.
I've realised I've not had a fitting since obviously on my injuries, and how much it's harder for me to actually play. Like I have to think a lot more about it, and like how to angle the club face and things, and then. Like I said, when I get to about the 13th, 14th, I'm like, oh, I'm tired.
I think, getting that spec right will just mean you're going to get back naturally a load of the club face control, because you and the club are going to be more synced up, so you're not going to have to find the swing as much. So it's same shaft, but just slightly, it's 2-3 grams lighter. This is just a cross reference.
My swing is exactly the same. But you want, I just want to make it easier for me.
Yeah,
and
so
obviously get the most distance as possible.
If functionally the club's letting you move naturally, you can put the most balanced speed in. That then keeps control of the club face. That then gives you the that extra distance without you having to force it. There's no real change. It's interesting there, just sort of seeing so actually it's marginal, but even though it's a couple of grams lighter, we've lost a little bit of speed. So, and it also doesn't future-proof, so I'm going to put that one back in. So you can just use the 105 gram weight to develop the speed well and keep the contact there. So let's have a little bit more of a dial that in.
Can't believe how straight I'm hitting it.
Oh, I see. Class is permanent.
I'll take it.
So I'm going to do a little bit of a look at where we are for.
At least also like having the attack angle, club face, face to path, like quite neutral. I mean, I can always work on that moving forward with more of my kind of power.
Yeah, I mean, with these ones, there was one that started off a little into out, but actually kind of from a path point of view. I think that was the one where I
kind of lost my height.
Also, that followed on from using the heavier tip ones as well. So someone like the better and the much more natural players, the quicker you're going to adjust to try to find a way of making something work. So then when we make a change, there's a bit of residual compensation in there. But then straight away after that, we're back at that slightly out to a neutral face. So it takes out that slingy one, which is great.
I also think as well, I need to accept the fact that I'm probably not hitting it as far as I used to, and just make it easier for me to just be more like neutral, like that, for example, where I'm trying to force it, I think, with my clubs as well.
Yeah, because some of that speed will come back. It's going to be a case of, at the moment, you've got to try to power through these because of where the weight is, and you've got to work and force them. It's actually getting back to where these ones are and where your current gamer set is. It actually allows you you can generate speed rather than having to hit hard. And actually then you get that another 1 or 2 miles an hour club speed, then you're over 170 carry.
Well, that's why lighter for me is going to be so much better.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to I just want to check where we are on a lie with this.
Because I did have really heavy shafts, didn't I?
I'm just going to see with this. I'm going to quick check just to make sure lie is in an appropriate place. And so these and where you are with your P760s, very similar in terms of construction. So you can expect to see the same kind of shot pattern out of the 760 heads. There are heads that will give a little bit more ball speed, but they also like to take a bit of spin off, which we don't really want to do. Let's just see. I'm just going to look at the line on the face there just to see. Okay, so that's coming just a little bit, the line's a little toe, that's coming a little toe up.
Yeah.
I'm just going to flatten that off just a little bit more.
To be fair, I've always been a bit toey my whole life, with every club.
Better that than a heel.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to flatten this down a little bit.
That way.
Clearly not, you can say the word. The Voldemort to golf shots. So I'm just going to take that a little bit flatter. But also, again, where your swing is very much a body rotation based swing. It's not a kind of pull on the handle. That's going to put your hands a little lower than some as well. So slightly flatter than standard makes sense from a lie point of view.
Well, I always kind of think like everything should be like, if you like putting as well, for example, you kind of just have your hands where it naturally sits. If you are slightly bent over, I think that's where the club should be. Where there's times where I've had to like really adjust if the loft and lie is not correct.
Yeah, and the things you'll find a position that gets a sort of cleaner contact. But if you've got if the toe sits up, you're going to adjust a little bit to that, and then the knock-on effects of face control, dispersion. As you say, you just want to be able to naturally set up and swing. Find a.
But yeah, this is great because I haven't had one of these sessions in a while, so it's really interesting.
Just turn it over a touch. Let's have a little look at the face on that. Okay, that's better. It's a little toe side, but let's square up the face. Okay, that's a better lie. So, let's see.
I can hit one more as well.
Yeah.
I don't think that was my best strike.
Okay, go for it. Yeah. But yeah, also, lie-wise, just dropping it down a bit. That'll also help just to hold the fly. I think where, so we're about a degree flatter than where those are. So again, it's also going to want to turn, especially in the shorter irons, turn that in a little bit. Loft's identical. got a bit of a calculation on spin that one, but that's a much squarer line through. And I think what you're going to see is the more comfortable you get with those, it's just then going to be there's another couple of miles an hour to get out of that. But as that angle of attack gets gets to a degree and a bit down, it'll just get you a little bit more of a natural shaft lean, which will pop the ball speed a little bit more. Yeah. But the lighter weight's going to make it easier for you to get out there and cover it rather than having to flip it.
I also find when I'm playing, I've got more adrenaline as well, so I do hit it a bit harder.
So that's that I'll get. Just so we've got a comparison, I'm just going to get a couple of heads that in theory might just give us a little bit more pop, see what happens from a ball speed point of view, but then also what it does to spin. Yeah, so we don't want to take that spin, you don't want to knuckle the spin down, but you can see from some of the current heads whether there's anything that will give you a little bit of extra speed.
Definitely.
Okay, cool.
You doing okay there?
You're doing the hard work. That's in a nice place for you.
It's interesting. It's been so long since I've had like proper fitting like this. I love how neutral my everything is.
Do you want the one I've got?
Yeah.
Like I mean,
I got one of those as well. That's that was that
most things
790.
are going like starting.
Yeah, 770. If you got
online.
770, that'd be.
No, not always. But
Okay, now we're good.
it shows
Thanks.
how much my
We'll
cups
do a
feel
little
like I said.
switch
I play about
around.
13 holes, and I'm like, it's like hard work. So yeah,
Yeah, I'll whip that one
this is
off.
where they're obviously too heavy for me right now.
Lovely,
Good
thank
though.
you.
Imagine if I worked out before.
Yeah.
Be like crawling in here. Okay.
Just going to head that in theory is going to give a little
Hence
more
why
pop.
I said, okay, can we do another day?
Yeah, I gotta
I said I'll probably be tired after just
get myself
this.
in there later on, I think.
I feel like I'm not ready for her torture. Not just yet. It scares me.
No, it's just the
probably
key. The key
scares
is
all
don't
of you.
compare. Don't compare yourself. The
I
competitive
used to
guy
be
in
able
me
to
is like,
compare myself,
surely I can do that. I'm
but
like,
not
no,
now.
don't
Like,
even try. Yeah.
it makes me sad. I always had to be the best at everything, and I'm like, oh, gonna go in there. And just, oh.
And so you must have been a gymnast.
I
as
was,
young,
yeah. Scott, I was under 10s Scottish gymnast,
Okay.
swimmer as well.
Mm-hmm.
My parents literally let me try every sport and figure out which one I wanted to play. Stood out more in golf, less girls.
But I think it's also important to have that variety and have the, develop the multiple motor skills for different sports. And
Well, my dad was an Olympic wrestler.
so Dad was the Olympic. Okay.
Before I could walk, I was in the gym. So wrestling was my first, and then it
Okay,
was gymnastics. But the gymnastics gave me such an incredible foundation to play every sport. So it helped in many ways.
And then your elder brother's golfer. Is he rugby?
He's golfer, Walker Cup,
Of
Pro.
course,
He was British champion at wrestling too. Just a lot of injuries. I'm just a few years later. And but Paul's more special, the middle one.
Yeah.
So 4 gold medals at the Special Olympics.
Because
For
he's
powerlifting.
quite good at dancing, isn't he?
Yeah. I'm not so good at singing. It's his passion. He wants to start a band. He said, please, for my birthday, can you get me on X Factor?
Is they powerlifting it?
He went to Poland for Special Olympics. Got 4 gold medals. I did, these were my golf events that I raised money for because there's no funding, which is really sad. Then went to the LA World Games and got gold and bronze. But he's kind of like me with golf. Oh, it's my day off. Are you not going to go train? No, today's my day off. What about tomorrow? No, tomorrow my day off too. Like, it's quite funny.
Cool, right.
Very sporting family, put it that way. Boyfriends weren't very at ease. Me and my family. Especially my dad being a bouncer for the Beatles as well.
Ah,
He-
okay, yeah.
He was always a doorman on his nightclub in Liverpool.
Yeah.
So many stories. It's like he hated like groups of guys and all that. This is back in the 80s. And there was a time he always told me about normally, and he always took the most horrific car there because no one would ever like look at that.
Yeah.
When he had like a Bentley and all this stuff. He's like, I've went out to take the bins and then there's 6 guys waiting for me. He's like in the alleyway at the back and he's like, well, I couldn't take them all at once. So I backed myself into the corner and one at a time. He had like a 21-inch neck.
Really?
Massive.
God.
He was.
Yeah. Mind you, so what kind of wrestling was it? What was his, God, because there were so many different forms of it. and types of-
Olympic wrestling.
Olympic wrestling, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And his training partner was Mr. Universe 3 times. So, anyway,
Yeah.
I was in the gym before I could walk.
So we're going to go, that one's just, so we're going to look at this one. We've got a
Yeah.
head that's designed for a little bit more pop and a bit more speed.
Okay.
So it's actually, it is a current version of the 770. It's seeing whether by going to something that has a little bit more speed, does that actually hurt the flight and the spin? Let's just pop that up. Okay.
I like that. That felt quite nice.
It's got a little bit more. That one just got up on it a little bit more, so it popped the launch up a little bit.
Yeah,
but
it does seem a bit
Good ball
high,
speed.
actually.
Yeah, just relative to where that was sort of a little bit of a quieter swing, but the ball speed for one that wasn't a perfect strike was still retained pretty well.
Yeah.
So
Face the path though, 0-0 is good.
We're a bit quicker than that now. We're quoting lead times depending on what we go for on about 6 weeks. But there's nothing here that's leading us to
okay, that's got a little bit more ball speed.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't
so,
mind a little draw like that.
Yeah, it's done from a neutral path. So it's not having to get you sending it. It's just because of with the fixing, I can't make it quite as flat as where we were, so
Oh,
it's
0-0.
slightly up.
Jeez.
And so what we have got is a little bit more ball speed. It's a slightly lower spin, slightly. Now but you can see where for about just a mile an hour under where you've been on club speed with the other club, we've got another 2 or 3 yards extra. So there's plenty of launch there. You could potentially, this is the kind of thing you look at maybe. Could you look at ball type just to raise the spin up a little bit without having to change something else? So there's a little bit less spin on that, but there is a bit more ball speed.
Thing is, I feel like my ball speed is a little bit inconsistent at the moment as well. So it's finding something that kind of works. Those like couple of
Just a
miles
little bit
per
more
hour.
margin. Yeah, I mean that is a head. They've where they've developed from the 770, which you've got in your 5 at the moment.
But spin rate's good.
Spin rates, it's on. I wouldn't want it any lower.
0-0.
In an ideal world, I'd like to see a hair more spin. But depending on what ball you use, you could manage that with the ball.
Yeah.
But also angle of attack, if you get a little more downward, that's going to pull a little bit more spin onto it as well.
Yeah.
So what that head's got is a bit more tungsten in the sole, a little bit of spread the weight a little bit more, so it's going to feel a bit more hollow, but you're going to get away with a little bit more. And there's a little bit more speed off the face, so you can certainly pick up a few yards with a switch to the updated head.
Go
it's
see Kate.
just it's just that question of in the bottom end. Would you want to go like you got your current set? You got a bit of a split. Would you want to go into, for example, a head that 8-9 pitch that didn't have that extra bit of pop for absolute consistency? It's just then managing lofts to achieve that. But certainly as a head, there's a little bit more ball speed off of that, so we can pick up another few yards just with an update to the current model of head.
Yeah.
So yeah, good to see there's a little bit more there.
Like I said, when my adrenaline's a bit high, always it's a little bit higher as well. So,
And then you pick up, you then if you're up at 83.5, 84, maybe a little more club speed, then you're 172, 73. So I think there's certainly a little bit more that the clubs can give you from what you've had. I mean, that is a head relative to your gamer set. There's going to be a bit more ball speed off that head as well.
it's more just for me, like just having like looking at it and thinking this fits perfectly, like where it's a natural arms, not like I have to adjust. So I mean, this is actually great for me.
Yeah, and we'd set that a little bit flatter than that is. It's just with the fixing on it, I can't bend it quite as far. So it's slightly toe up from where we want it to be, which will also fix a little bit of that face to path number as well. That'll square that off a touch more. So that
so
certainly
would that
gives
help
you
the slightly less toey?
a
Because
little.
I've always been a little toey
I think
my whole life. So
in terms of
I don't know if that's just
look at
because
where
I've not
that's
had my
pretty
clubs
central.
perfectly set.
It could do. The lie is certainly going to help get it away from the lower half of the face. If you get the lie right, then you've got. If it's massively upright, then you're catching it at the bottom part of that face. As you drop that down, it's going to catch higher up. I think if your strike point lives in the toe side a little bit, then that's.
I think also from looking back now is I've always been a bit high up with where my grip would be, and my clubs were too long.
Okay.
So that's probably when I say it, the tendency to like lift it up that way. It's just not naturally comfortable.
Come up and out of it. Yeah. I mean, the other bit of some of these heads now where they've got a little bit more tungsten in the toe of the club, it actually pulls the sweet spot, the centre of the face is actually central on the face rather than the heel side. So actually where you might have been really middle on the face, it would have felt a bit toey on some of the previous models of head.
Well, just from recent, obviously playing a little bit more, I just feel like, because obviously I've not got the same strength, like I'm hitting a little bit more up. And like I said, I feel like I'm hitting out the bottom. But that's obviously maybe partly because the shaft has been a bit too strong.
Certainly for where those are, because so the moment it drops behind,
I feel like I really
you're
have
already
to make an effort.
Sort of through the ball before the club gets there, absolutely. Yeah, so back just a little up on it, and it's just launched up a little bit more.
I think that's been my tendency at the moment, just because obviously I'm trying to hit it hard.
Yeah, but then you say as that comes then back down, then as you say, spin's going to retain there, launch will come down, ball speed will go up. That actually is a natural progression, but it's really nicely under control from where we are with that shaft. Really nicely under control from a face to path and a path point of view.
Yeah.
So definitely in a good space there.
I'm happy with that because we can really focus on that from there. So at least I know I'm hitting the ball at like perfect kind of like club face.
Yeah, and from that point, it's just then a little bit of pitch of swing.
I just know then when I get
so
like I
major.
hit up, or if I get a bit tired, I'm like, ooh, and I hit it fat. So,
well, I'd say the fat one. I think the heavy shaft. And we saw that, and then we went.
That's what I mean.
Like
it gets to about the 13th hole, and I'm like, I'm tired now.
And anything too much weight in the bottom, again, it gets dropped behind. And I think where you might feel like you're collapsing, it's just the club exacerbating that tendency. If you get a bit fatigued, to drop in behind. The club's doing some of that on its own as well. So that's going to help you stay much more central, much more in posture, and turn around your frame.
I can just turn then and just like.
Exactly.
Hit it naturally, where like I always remember, like I said, my brother always said that you hit it better when you are a little bit tired because you just kind of flow better.
Yeah.
And obviously I had lighter clubs then, I was like 12, but I think I've gone obviously really strong, and my shafts are really heavy.
Yeah.
And I'm still using the same shafts that, you know, after my injuries, where I've realised
absolutely.
that they're just not correct for me.
It may well be that we end up migrating more kind of 108, 110
Yeah.
grams as you get
Yeah.
back to fuller strength. But I think certainly where, you know, so where those are, in the longer irons, the AMTs progress the weights more steeply than most. So you know, like those shafts will progress about a gram per shaft. These are 2 or 3. So you go from 106, 107 in the longer irons to 130 in the shorter irons. So it's a real kick up in weight into the shorter irons. So you know, so it may well be we end up down the line just taking the shaft weights up just a touch, just to match as your strength develops. But
Yeah, and
right
then,
now
you know,
it's
you
in a great
change,
place.
that's the whole progression of it. God, I can't believe I had 6.0s at 13.
Yeah, well, so if we were starting in the gym at
And
6 years
blades.
old, then
Yeah.
So and I think in terms of, and we can certainly do that with these heads. That one, if you went down that route, you're going to get a little more ball speed and help. And I think it's just a question of whether that's something you'd want to start afresh with that head.
Yeah.
Equally speaking, we can build them into these as well. You know, you've got that progression. You say the 5 iron in the previous model of that, 760s, and then
I would
into the
like to
MCs.
check those if that's longer than standard.
So that one
double check that,
is
please.
at the 5 iron here. We've got it. Yeah, it's another 1/4 inch on from where those are. So it's slightly longer again.
So I think I would prefer to have my 4 and 5 iron a little bit shorter.
I mean, we'd bring
If-
from where
if
these are, we'd bring them
possible.
back down, bring them back down the 1/2 inch, get them back down to 37 on the 6
Or
iron.
I just have to get used to like gripping it lower.
No, we
But
can
it's
we
just
can do
I
anything
just
with the
want
lengths.
it to be a bit more natural for me. And obviously I've always had the tendency to be quite high up.
Yeah, and we can do anything with the lengths, especially at that end. We can sort of trail them off a little. We don't have to go 1/2 inch increments every club.
Yeah.
You can drop it down to 3/8 or 1/4 inch. It's just in a case of weighting the head appropriately. So there's even getting them in line with where your other set is. That's going to be 3/4 of an inch shorter on the 5 iron. So I think if we go with the standard progression first, we can always trail the long irons a bit shorter if you want to after that, because you're going to get them back to a much more comfortable place, even just reverting back to a normal progression off a 6 iron in line with your other set.
Well, like I said, these are a mixed set where I got sent after my clubs being stolen out my car. So obviously missed those because they were perfect for me. But yeah, and I always feel like every pro needs a second set just in case.
Well, especially with the travelling and
Yeah.
things as well. I mean, with these, with that split, do you like that split? Do you
I
like
the
going
combo.
into the more blade like in the shorter one?
Yeah, I like the combo. I've always done the combo set my
Yeah.
whole life, pretty much. So,
And because when you go to the MCs, you then lose that bit of face tech and a bit of ball speed out. So it's kind of from what club would you want that extra bit of pop? Because I mean, there's nothing to stop us having, for example, you've got the 7 iron down of these, building the 7 to pitch in the MCs, and for example, duplicating a couple of clubs, so you've got an option of where to go to. Going, say, whether it's 7 iron up in the 770s or even 8 iron, we can do kind of multiple options, so you've got the choice of which one you go to.
I think with, obviously, over time when you hit, like I tend to practice a lot with like a 9 iron, 7 iron.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of odds when I'm hitting balls.
Yeah.
So you always see the kind of mark on the
Okay, yeah.
face. And that, over time, that's when the loft and lie kind of changes on those. So for me, it's just really getting a good consistency between each club, because sometimes it becomes like 15, 20 yards between the 7 and the 8.
Okay, yeah.
And this is where I find a little bit hard, where then my 4 iron is going 190 and my 5 wood's going 220, and I've got that big gap where, you know, I just feel like as long as I've got some sort of kind of
Consistent progression.
with all my clubs,
That's no
because I
problem.
like 4 wedges.
Yeah.
Where obviously that's where I need to only have 3 woods.
So would you want any? I mean, we can, because that's really just a case of progressing the lofts, doing the data, and making sure that the lofts track. From a split point of view, where would you want to make that split? Say we can duplicate clubs to have, for example, a 7-iron in each head, and you can choose which one your preference is. It's kind of what set maker. Where do you like going into that more kind of muscle back style, control based head?
Well, if I can confirm that my 7-iron goes 150 yards,
Yeah.
then work from there, kind of.
Okay, I should based on that should be pretty
Yeah.
comfortable. Yeah. That shouldn't. I don't see that being a problem whatsoever.
So just like a nice even gap,
Okay.
because that's where it goes wrong when I practice too much with like 2-3 clubs, and
Okay.
I don't get it looked at for
As you
so
say,
long.
yeah, that'll just be a bit of a regular checkup
Yeah.
on the loft and lies.
Exactly.
Okay. So then let's have a little look at the wedges.
Obviously,
So-
you're welcome to crank it up. So
Okay.
I hit it 160. I need all the help I can get right now.
Well, I think you're looking at where we are now. I think you currently the solid ones are 165 plus. We're kind of at the moment we're living in the kind of 160, 165 as a sort of a
Yeah.
standard swing, but that's only going to progress up. The better ones are up 167 on the 6,
Yeah.
which then is going to put the 7-iron, the current swing's going to be around the 150, but then it could progress more
Yeah.
towards the 154, 55 as you strengthen up. So I'd look to having kind of probably 10 to 12 yard gaps through. But
Yeah.
again, that's something we can dial in. Once they're built, we can
Yeah.
dial in lofts and dial in distances.
Well, I used to be 125 with the pitch and wedge, nearly at 138 with the 9,
Yeah.
148 with the 8, 7 was almost 160,
Yeah.
6 was 175, 5 was 182, 4 was 190. This is carry.
Yeah.
5 wood was 210, 3 wood was 220, driver was 250 roughly.
Yeah.
But it's just all over the place now.
Yeah.
So
We can
my
easily
pitch and
dial
wedge,
those in.
my pitch and wedge is only about 115 right now. 9 irons 125, 8 irons 135 roughly.
Okay.
So I just kind of want to. Obviously, I need to adapt now with the shafts to make it easier for me to maybe get a little bit more yardage.
Yeah, we can dial them. We can once built, we can dial them in, get all the distances dialed in, and then it's just then every
Yeah.
now and then or whenever you want, just
And
kind
it's
of
just making
popping
sure
in
the gaps
cross-referencing them.
are closer.
Yeah.
Because,
That's just the
yeah.
kind of once built that loft and lag check and distance check, is hitting a few
Yeah.
with each one and make sure that they're
Yeah,
hitting the
100%.
gaps that we want to, and then over time they'll naturally progress on a little
Yeah.
bit, and it's monitoring them and just going right. Where are every
Yeah.
X amount of time? Where are we now? Do they need moving around a little bit?
And also,
just
like,
to,
I've
just
played
to stay.
tournaments where, like, I've also had a 3 iron. I don't like hybrids much, so I've had a 3 iron, or I've had a 4 wood driver.
Okay.
So, I've kind of had a 58 and a 54
Yeah.
pitch and wedge. But I prefer my 60. Like, I really like.
Okay.
I'm just used to having that club, and I really like my wedges.
Got it.
So, because I had such a almost 20, 30 yard difference. I remember playing like US Open, and it's like I don't know how to hit this like a chip,
Yeah.
almost a chip with my 5 wood. So it was always good to have options to change.
That's the thing with the different course conditions, different turf types, from a
Of
bounce
course,
point of view
like
on wedges.
everyone changes if you're playing
flights.
links or you're playing well, in America it's pretty much like land and stop, so it's more on height. So
So we're going to have a look at the wedge shafts as well, because these are up at that 130 gram weight range as well. So where we're in the iron shafts, they're kind of 105 to 110 in the shorter irons. It's a hell of a big jump up.
This club I've not really hit much of, so it's a 48. And this was a spare one here,
Okay.
so interesting to see.
So we'll get a couple of kind of fairly, I guess, standish swings, but also a couple of little knockdown swings as well.
I really like punching it in.
Okay,
I
yep.
feel like I control it so much more with my wedges. So I'm going to just try and hit a full one.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting, you see going
So that's me hitting it.
straight back in, you can
Pretty
see
much
that
full.
just get a little bit under, nice and straight. But in terms of, instead being able to get that kind of pinched, squeezed contact, just has that element of a little bit of a drop. And just see a slightly shorter one as well, a little knockdown. Like a 3/4 swing. Okay, so interesting. So that one, because you've got a
This is
little more
going
down and
straight.
on top, that actually then got you a more, like, better launch and spin, but a more efficient contact. So actually went, that last one went like 7
Sometimes,
yards
like when
further.
I actually punch it, I hit it further.
Yeah, well, I mean,
funny.
dynamically the loft comes down. So that one you were 4 or 5 degrees down on it, whereas the first one was, if I can find the cursor, was only 1. So you launched it 5 degrees lower. So picked up.
I do get a better strike when I actually think punch.
Yeah, you get a little more
Yeah.
shaft lean, covered a little bit more.
I think
just a
because
better
I've just had
impact
that
position.
bad tendency to hit up, obviously, recently.
Would be also good to see, that was with the 54, it's just then that kind of little slightly shorter swing again. So if you're just playing a little half shot,
So, like, with a 54, I would like a full shot to be like 85 to 90
Okay.
yards.
Yeah. Okay.
A little bit
Yeah,
less.
so distance there. It's interesting with the fuller ones, yeah, that angle of attack just gets shallowed out a little bit
Well,
more.
it did carry 90.
So
didn't it?
distance-wise, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Just, I'm gonna put something similar to the others. I'm gonna put something, same loft, just a little lighter together and see if that
Well,
can
these
help
two
naturally get the angle of
obviously
attack there.
are not ones I've been using, so.
Yep, okay. Let's go to...
So these are the wedges I have been using.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Okay, they're just very
Okay, so similar
Could
shaft
try,
in them.
so
Yeah.
see the difference. They're just new, like spare ones.
So I'm going to put something together with the same family of shafts in as we're looking at in the irons. So from a, oh, that one's, I'm just
Yeah.
going to get that head's a little bit heavy. I'm just going to get something that's a slightly lighter head. Swinging a little bit heavy.
My ideal wedges would be a full shot with my 60 at 70, 75, 54 at 85, 90,
Yeah.
and 50 at 105, 100, 105.
Okay, yeah.
And then pitch wedge, 120.
20 odd, yep, okay.
Just in the standard setting. And obviously this is the slightly
Swinging a little heavy.
I hit that pretty hard, nearly 180. Sorry, 80 with 60. I really need a caddy to clean my clubs. I have.
get that.
I always laugh
That's
because
good balance.
I won't see my caddy for a couple of weeks, and it's like, geez, Carly, for God's sake.
Just let me know when this line looks comfortable joining on.
That was a bit thin.
Just got this to a balance. It's just a
Just need to
little
go
bit
down a bit
better.
more. That was better.
Flatten this down a little.
I think that's just what I need to work on a little bit, is just going down a bit more.
It'll
Come
be
up a lot.
interesting to see with kind of like with the
A
arms.
lot
if
of
I
it's just
take
lack
the,
of practice, though.
also, if I take the dead weight in the shaft down a little bit, the total weight down, does that also help get you a little bit more on top of it? So that's got.
Well, that's my, like, what I work on is just really coming on top of the ball. But I think because I'm trying to, like, get it out there, sometimes I'm just like,
Well, from a
lifting
club
up.
point of view, the heavier
Yeah.
it is, again, the more it's going to work
Yeah.
that way. So if we can get a bit of total weight out of the shaft, it
Yeah.
helps you to get a little bit more covered and on top. So we're interested to see with that. It's just got that little bit of a, it's the same family shaft
So
as
this,
the ones we're looking at in the irons.
54.
But more in line with the dead weight of the iron shaft.
I don't mind a small draw with the wedges, though.
A little bit more into it. I'm going to go, it's a little more into out. I'll see one more with that. I might have to kind of shift the weighting around a little bit in it.
If I can hit full power, 54 at 90 yards, I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, distance in the wedge is no problem at all.
Unless they adapted the length, but generally the tailor-made club is the stock length is about 45.5. Just being that little bit shorter, swing weight being in a slightly.
Okay,
It's also great because I'm actually practicing at the
I'm
same
going to go
time.
slightly heavier on
I'm
that.
figuring things out as we go along too.
So
Which is nice.
took a reasonable bit of weight down. I'm going to push it back up a
90.
little bit, just a little bit. I think that's gone just very slightly light.
Spin rate's quite high.
Uh,
I
yeah,
don't
spin's
know.
fine. Yeah, spin's okay there.
I always just look at attack angle and club face.
Yeah.
You think I'd know more about this?
Oh,
If it goes straight, I'm
sometimes it's
happy.
better not to. Yeah. I think there are kind of two routes. I always think there's I think if you're a kind of natural player, as long as there's certain keys that you use, then you can overthink things over kind of. You can overdo some of the conscious thought bits, whereas actually sometimes it's better just to
I
swing.
guess, like as an amateur as well, like I had Nike look after me for 12 years.
Mm.
And I remember we had the Daily Telegraph
Yeah.
finals in Abu Dhabi.
Oh yeah.
And Tommy Fleetwood was also with Nike as well.
Mm.
Because I spent a few years in the Faldo series.
Yeah.
And they just send the clubs and you just put them straight in the bag.
Mm.
Don't care.
No, yeah, absolutely. They were
And
free was a good price.
like Tommy said, yeah, I just put them straight in the bag. Won. We
Yeah.
both won.
Easy game. Yeah.
Made me laugh.
Just a little bit of a different balance point into that shaft. So just had to fine tune head weighting with a little bit of lead tape there. Okay, that's still... Okay, so if we slightly light, it just actually lets you work it around. I'm going to push a fraction more into that. Get a slightly different head onto that, actually.
How are you doing over here?
This is the control center.
This is the straightest I've hit golf shots. Like seriously, like from like where it starts.
Yeah.
It's been helped actually playing some golf last week. It's true, like practice actually, like doesn't take you long, but
No, I sometimes find that when I haven't played for a bit, my first round's really good because I'm just keeping it really simple.
well, that's the thing. I think people overthink too much.
Okay, yeah.
And the amount of times I've obviously not played this year and I've actually played quite well or hit the ball quite well.
I think
I
sometimes
think
your
the
expectations
short
are a
game
little
gets
less.
a bit
and-
rusty
Yeah,
because obviously you're not. That's a lot of feel. And I always go, I should play less golf more often.
yeah, no, I certainly feel it as well.
Because you just don't just swing.
Yeah.
Like I think
you
people
pick simpler shots. You pick.
Yeah.
You're not as concerned about less than perfect. You
Yeah.
kind of just get it around a little bit more.
And then like I think because I've obviously tried to always work everything out in my own way of what's going wrong, it's going right, going left. You know, when you've played for so long and you figure it out yourself. I'll hit an extra 50, 100 balls to figure it out, and because I won't leave the range until I've figured it out.
Yeah.
But it's such a simple thing. I'm like, oh, do you know what? It's just my setup. I'm maybe
Yeah,
too
it
far
often goes
this
back
way.
to fundamentals, doesn't it?
Most of it is because people get too open or too. I remember when I was too scared of hitting it right, I'd aim so far left.
Okay.
But my
yeah.
club face was square, so just go straight left.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just aim straight. So even little things like that, especially if you're not in like camera or videoing your swing.
You always tend to think about try and work out the most complex fix to the simplest
Yeah.
problem. Yeah. Yeah, so often fundamentals.
And it's honestly like every time I went for a lesson in the past, it's like the most simplest fix. And it's usually always set up.
Okay, that was better. Okay, that was better. So we've got a little bit more feel for the head on that one. It squared the path off better. So with a lighter weight, it actually got a little more into, out and closed.
Yeah.
That one's got angle attack a little bit more down, but it's got the face a lot square, so there's a lot less shape on it. So previous shot had a little bit more right to left on it. That was a slightly quieter swing, but the previous weight, you can see the path is 4 into, out, and the face 5 closed, whereas that last one was 1 and 1. So much better from a line point of view, just having a little bit more feel for the head on that.
I'm also warming up now.
Definitely squarer. Okay.
But
So-
it's crazy how much like now just hitting shots, I'm getting a bit of feel for it.
Yeah. I mean,
And a bit
those
more
last two
confidence
just squared it off much. So it
as
might need to
well.
go one, slight change on
Yeah.
loft. Where it was a little more into, out, and closing, it kind of cannoned a little bit of extra
Yeah.
speed on. But you then got a little bit less face control.
Yeah.
So what would be good to see is just a slightly shorter one with that weight, just to see if you were to take it down to a little half swing, how that sinks in. So the fuller swing's good. Just want to make sure
That's
if you
only-
dial it back a little bit,
Yeah.
where that the timing's still clean.
I would like this is obviously 54, so I would like it to be able to reach 90.
Yep.
but obviously control a more punchy shot, which I love to do punchy shots.
Let's see one of those.
So I'm going
ones
to do
then.
like a more of a 75 yarder.
Yep.
Low spin. It isn't a bad thing.
Although this one,
Just turn the face in a little
from
bit
seeing,
on that.
Always be high with that one.
So you've got a little bit more turned
that's the
over under
only
that.
thing actually. Sometimes when I do try and punch it more, it does go further. So
Yeah, so that one got a little more
I'm
into that
getting
and
that
face
angle
closed.
better.
So you just deliver a little bit less loft. So, okay, let's see one more of those. Just
That's where when you're in the like playing in wind shots and I hit it quite high, and you club up.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
want to punch it,
Punch
and
it
I'm like,
in and
jeez,
then
I've just
rocket
gone
it.
right
Yeah.
through. I'm like, I should actually just hit that shot generally, like all the time. So I'm gonna go for a 75, little
Yeah,
punch.
just a little shorter swing. Yeah.
Where you get the lower spin, really sort of.
Nice contact. Nice strike.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, better angle of attack on that. So I think so actually it's kept pace with the fuller swing, but because of being a little lower launch, a little bit of a stronger flight. So clubhead speed's
Yeah.
down 5 miles an hour,
I
but
think
your
I'm
ball
also-
speed's basically
I'm
the same.
hitting it better now, like.
So you're from 1.5 down to 3 down. So you're 34 launch to 31. So it's a little bit, that impact position's changing a little bit, but the contact stays the same, which is
Yeah.
key thing to that. So just literally a double check cross reference. Just back up to that one. That's your current one.
This is not the current
Or is
one
the,
I've been hitting, actually.
Was
It's,
that one was the
this one. No, not that one. Yep. One with my name on it. So, my current 54 I've been using. Let's see. Do you want, will I hit a full shot
just
first?
fairly standard swing, and it's just kind of doing a quick comparison, just as almost of a normalised back to this.
I'll
How
hit a
does that
full-
then compare to
I'll
that
hit a
other
full
shot?
shot first, and then I'll hit like a little punchy one. Let's see. That was thin, but I think it's. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me try
Yeah,
that
so
one
going,
again.
is it just going back a little heavier?
Yeah, I just.
It's just got that toe closing
I
over
just,
a little
yeah, I
bit
just have the.
more. Yeah.
It's just not as easy.
Yep. So a good side is that confirms it's definitely a good change from a shaft point of view.
Full one. I'll just do that again. Full one.
Yeah. So just
Like
that
for
little
me,
more.
it's just more of an effort.
Yeah. Back
Like if I'm
underneath
a
it
little
more.
bit tired, like
Closing
I
over a
really
little more.
struggle.
Yeah. So definitely bring it like with the irons, bringing that shaft weight back down. So your irons, let's say 105 to 110. That's a 115, 16 gram shaft. So it kind of keeps everything normalised and in sync. So you roll 130, losing 15 odd grams. This is a good distance, a good amount of difference. So the nice thing there is you say you can then stay centred, turn,
Yeah, well,
collect
not-
it, control
like,
the
I get-
face.
When I just like, if my energy level is a little bit low and I'm getting tired, I tend to dip.
Yeah.
And and it's heavy. Like I can feel the weight difference straight away now from trying that one.
Yeah, it's incredible how when you've got them side by side, how obvious it is. But
Yeah.
when you're out on course, you just get accustomed to it and get used to it. So
Yeah.
that'll, through the irons and wedges, that'll just help give you more control over the club face, divot depth. You can stay more centred. The body will stay more balanced through the
Yeah.
swing, and you will lose that bit of coming out of it because you're then able to get the club back out in front of you more easily.
Well, like I said, these are the same shafts before my ACL and my shoulder up.
Yeah.
So it's obviously I'm massively weaker.
Yeah. It doesn't take a lot. You only need to look at kind of 5% or so.
Yeah.
Is it's for that one like 76 miles an hour, 73, 74, 72, 73 miles an hour. It's only 3 or 4 mile an hour
Yeah.
drop, but actually in terms of
Yeah.
energy going through the club, it ramps up pretty quickly. So
Well, I literally said to, when I played the other day, I said, get to about the 13th. I play good to the 13th, and then I start to tire.
yeah.
So it just, yeah, like, that's when you need something a little bit more easy just to hit.
In terms of the wedge heads themselves, I mean, the high toe for the shorter shots, absolutely great as a head style, particularly for the around the green stuff.
Love my 60.
That soul shape, yeah. The soul shape is such a versatile soul shape. The current ones have got a little bit more tread on the face. So it's worth a refresh on the head, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to get some new, I've got some getting sent out.
Okay, yep.
But yeah, I couldn't like not have a 60 degree. You know, when people go 58, like 54 or 52 or something.
And it's whether, I've always played the extra loft because I've never been great at wedges, so it helps me kind of play the shorter shots more easily.
Yeah.
And I think where naturally your swing's got that bit of pace and speed to it, so again, it makes it easier to dial it back. And especially the head style, again, is great for those delicate shots as well. You know, the grind, you do that opening
Funny
it
when
up
people
is
say
really
to
good.
me, how do you hit the bunker shot? And I'm just like, do you know when you've just like kind of learnt yourself? And you know, for the first time in like my whole career, I'm like, I don't know how to hit a bunker shot. And I've had to actually, I think you like.
But is that because you're thinking
okay,
about
I'm like,
it now
oh my
rather than
God,
just
all I
playing
have
it?
to do is just stay square and hit it. So my tendency was to go like open at one point.
Yeah.
I almost knocked my coach out.
But is that
Like,
'cause
literally, it was
now,
boring.
is that now because you're thinking about it now rather than just seeing
Well,
a
it's
shot and
lack of
playing it?
practice also, and then, yeah, a lot of it is lack of practice, but it is just simplest things. I'm just too open and going
Okay.
too like in the ground,
Yeah.
where you kind of want to sweep it up, open the club face more, and hit it really hard.
Just hit through, yeah. In terms of head-wise, have you got a set of heads coming, or because actually in terms of the grinds and things, the bounce profile on the 54 has a little bit more than the 60, which is a nice contrast. And these are actually pretty fresh.
Yeah, I've not really used these, so these probably would be ideal to.
Yeah. And then just the
sort.
fresh one of the 60 to add in the bottom end.
I just don't have. You'll never walk alone.
Well, I can't, as long as it's not copyrighted, we can put anything on them.
Liverpool.
Tougher season this season, then.
Yeah, we've not done so good.
Okay. So yeah, so essentially, generally through the set, a little bit of weight down. We can use those two heads, and then in terms of with those, yeah, we can on these. We can laser on whatever you want on the back.
That would be nice.
And do you say have you got a fresh 60 coming, or
I should do, but not just now. But I'll just keep
Yeah.
that for now.
we can get that organised, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, 107.
There's 10. Is that the 7 or the 10? That's the 10. Okay. Yeah, and then it's just going to be a case of once built, just dialing in, going through club to club, just dialing in the distances, just making sure that they're absolutely bang on the gaps that you want them to be. The balance of shots is there.
Like when I was obviously on tour for like 12, 13 years, like you knew your exact distances.
Yeah.
Literally, I remember like saying my 8 iron was 152, 7 iron was 164. Like you literally knew your exact yardages. If you punch it, it's going, or like try and hit a soft one, it's 6 yards less or something like that. Like it's
I
so
think with the green
important.
setups, you've got to know, haven't
Yeah.
you? Can't afford to go 4 yards long, 4 or 5 short.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's like it's so intense. Well, obviously that's play for a lot of money. It's
In terms of grip preference, do you have a particular grip preference? These all got the tall velvets on, but is that something that you've used a long time and are comfortable with?
I've kind of used a few different ones over the few years, I went. Let me grab these. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one I used for quite a while, but obviously that's old school. You
Yeah,
have
and
to
then
kind of like it.
Yeah, the question mark on those has always been in variant weathers,
Yes, that I agree, 100%.
but grade and dry.
And then when I had a bit more of a stronger grip here, if I was hitting a lot of balls, my hands
Yeah.
would be really sore. So that was just obviously the standard one. That I did like for a while, but
Do you
was
prefer
playing-
something with a slightly kind of tackier feel?
Yeah, I think something not too strong, but grippy.
Okay.
If you know,
Yeah, because
it's hard to explain.
there's some interesting
Actually.
materials that kind of South Lamkin are doing in terms of actual. So you've got their kind of sonar series. And if you
think-
like the wrap style too.
I think from obviously not hitting balls as much, my hands got a bit like
Yeah.
it's sore because I wasn't practicing the same.
calluses aren't
Yeah, not as
tuned
strong.
in, yeah.
So then I thought something a bit softer.
And material-wise, you've got Lamkin with their sonar series have got quite a lot of tread, but it's not a hard grip. It's a different feel.
I also I get sweaty hands,
Okay.
so I like a grip.
Yeah.
So even like when I was playing in hot weather, I was putting my rain gloves on
Okay. Yeah.
because I just felt like my hands were slipping.
Better purchase. I mean that's where those are. The multi-combats are good because you've got the layers of tread,
Yeah.
but it's whether that harder top hand is something that's a little bit prohibitive.
I think I've had pretty much most of these
Yeah.
over a period of time, but for me right now, just obviously not playing as much. Something I remember having like this.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, my brother had these, and oh my god.
And it's sort of, that's a bit of a kind of slight kind of middle ground, in that it's got that corded top hand, but it's not as kind of harsh.
I like
as
half
that.
and half really.
So
Yeah.
that's where, if you like the kind of the mix, then one of the multi-compounds is going to be, so you've got, and the
Yeah.
plus four is a little less, it's all about the size, you might have to stretch the bottom hand a touch, but it's
Yeah.
a little fatter in the bottom hand, but it's not as harsh a tread on it.
Yeah.
Whereas
Well,
the standard one's got a little bit more coarseness to it.
And also I grip it a little bit higher, so that part's not
Okay.
really coming into
Okay.
play unless I'm like chipping, which
So in terms of,
So,
see your hand
full
size to mine, just see your hand size to mine from because it's a diagonal measurements there.
I don't like my hands.
So,
That's why I have to always have nice nails.
so it's about kind of that
They're
depth
strong,
there
though.
as well. So
Yeah.
interesting to see if I take that, to see how that sits. We take a grip as normal on that. See how that sits in your,
So I'd
yeah, because
grip
that's
it there.
possibly, if I go to that one, because this one's thicker in the bottom hand, just compare back with that. Does that feel like it gets into that trigger finger better?
That one's nicer than that one, yeah. I
Yeah, because
think.
that being fatter in the bottom hand,
Yeah.
it doesn't, your right index finger doesn't quite get around it.
Yeah, I do like a grip at the top.
So I think from that point of view, they're going to give you that better than anything else.
Yeah.
And then you've got black and red.
It's
that
funny
you
how
can
everyone's
get.
got a different preference.
Absolutely, because it's the only bit of the club you're got in contact with, and it's got to feel comfortable.
Well, like I said, I remember not having rain gloves and using this. I don't know, my club just went flying. At one
Yeah,
point.
and they're
Like,
great. They're great in Arizona.
You just don't feel
Yeah.
like you want to have a good grip.
I think
No matter
that
what
one's
the
going
weather.
to ensure that, although, say, initially a little bit more purchase. Those get very hard on the bottom hand, where you've got the cord all the way through.
Never seen that one before.
There's a grip there.
Shame.
So,
That feels soft.
yeah, again, softer
That's actually
feel.
quite
It's
nice.
it's a little bit. It's essentially it's a sanded outer layer of those. So there's
Yeah.
there's not a lot of purchase from it. So it's a softer feel, but you're going to lose that tread and grip to it. So
Yeah, I think I do like a bit of a grip at the top.
So I think those give you that better than anything else. And at least with that bottom hand as it is, that takes away a little bit of the harshness.
Do you have any other colours?
You can get them in red. For that. Certain you wouldn't want, being a Liverpool fan, you wouldn't want
No,
the blue.
it doesn't
So-
colour coordinate either.
No. So yeah, you can certainly get the reds on
Perfect.
those.
Yeah, no, definitely grip at the top.
Yeah, cool.
Also, these get like, I feel sometimes, you know, if you're hitting a lot of balls, it just kind of
Yeah, they'll shine up, they'll polish up a little bit.
Yeah, they go really greasy, kind of.
And that's like without having that tread pattern to it, there's not anything that
Yeah.
actually kind of grips your hands. It's
I think that's fine if you're just your daily kind of golfer. But
like
no.
me, my delicate
Well, me
little
as well
fingers.
at the
Yeah,
moment, but yeah,
cool.
you need a bit more grip, definitely.
So good side is that what you're gaming is pretty close. Very, very slight fine tunes, but it's not, what you're using is not something that's wildly off, which
Yeah.
is great. So what's good is this can very much be, at the very worst interchangeable, but pretty much like for like. Slight fractional change in balance profile in terms of the head weighting, very slight. But we should be able to get a little bit more out of the new heads from a ball speed point of view, for sure. But bringing the weight down, get the lengths back in line with your gamer set, get the wedge shafts, the iron shafts just down a little bit in weight. And then from there, that's going to let you just free the swing up, get a little more control, get the right colour grips on.
100%.
Take it forward from there.
Let me shoot under par again. But
Cool.
yeah, no, it's like such little like things that just make such a difference.
They do,
and
yeah. Your margin for
like, you
overgolf.
don't realise how much it does actually.
Yeah, I mean,
can
one
completely change
degree
your
off on a
game.
10-foot putt and you miss it. So if you
Yeah.
extrapolate that out to 150 yards, then it's a lot more of a difference.
Same with
So-
like your putter. Like if it's not quite fit for you, like people have it too upright or too toe down, and you're not hitting it like in the middle. And it's
Yeah, and
it's
again, it's
little
all
things
about
like
the little
that.
bits of confidence as well. Knowing you've got it, right, everything's sorted. I know I can just go out and play. It takes out any of that little voice of doubt, hopefully. So,
Definitely.
great.
Anyway, that's been really productive.
Hope you've enjoyed it. Yeah, some good,
have.
some good definite answers there, which is great. It's always nice when you can be
Yeah.
definite about, right, that is absolutely the right way to go. And saying ultimately almost the better side of it is what you've been playing with is not,
Yeah.
it's not far off at all. So
And like in a few months' time, I might have to come back and get it readjusted.
yeah,
if
we'll
I'm
see
getting
how
stronger and
see how the body develops.
yeah, exactly.
And then there's room to take that kind of profile of shaft, take the weight up, or it might change very slightly. It's probably more going to be the raw weight rather than the type of shaft, I
Yeah.
would say. But plenty of room for development there too.
And again, the more you hit the shots with your clubs every day, like people don't realize that your loft and lies do change
Yeah, I mean,
gradually
so
if you're hitting a lot
for
of
someone
golf
hitting
balls.
as many shots as you're
Yeah.
going to be, it's at least it's got to be monthly, at least.
That's why
so-
the 9 iron and the 7 iron change massively because of the two I
eight
always
and a half
hit.
and 6.5 irons. Yeah.
It's like pristine clubs, and I've got like perfect like
the wear
little,
marks. Yeah,
Yeah, with those two.
great.
But
Lovely.
yeah, no, wonderful. Thank you.
Perfect.
It's been
Pleasure.
great.
Fun, and we'll get those built up as soon as possible. Cool.